Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast with Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about, on-time delivery, the food supply.
Just-in-time manufacturing.
Just-in-time manufacturing. Basically, how we get our groceries, how fragile is our whole food supply, and really how fragile is it, anything, any of our products. Are we
right.
going to thrive and live forever? Whatever, who knows? But let's kind of dig deep and see exactly what we're dealing with. So what is just-in-time manufacturing, Kevin?
Just-in-time manufacturing. So it's a production model in which items are created to meet demand, not created in surplus in advance. So basically, you get the orders and then you produce it. This saves a lot of money on basically warehouse space. What it's doing is saving all that storage space, the cost. So this was like a great model. When everything works perfectly, this is like a great model and saves a lot of money and makes a lot of money for the manufacturer. But
right.
Doesn't work out when supply chain issues start happening. You don't have any surplus stock to manufacture, items with, and if those raw materials stop showing up, you're just out of luck, and you've got people making orders and nothing being produced to fill those orders. That's why you see a lot of stuff. You'll order it. I've been dealing with this with work. You'll order it and they'll say, yeah, we can get it to you in 6 months. I ordered some grease. Took 3 months to get to me. And every time I'd call, they'd be like, it's going to be 2 more weeks. But they just kept saying that over and over again, And I think a lot of people, I think if you asked around, a lot of people have experienced similar things right now. You can't get what you order immediately. Most of the things you're after, they're not in stock.
So this actually came about. It used to be called the Toyota model. It was actually the Japanese, and I think that it may have. Remember, after World War II, we went over and kind of trained the Japanese in our best business models, but somehow we didn't train America on our best business models. I haven't really figured that one out. We went over and we're like, hey, you know how you guys could kick our ass? And they were like, yeah, tell us. That'd be great. And they were like, do this.
Yeah. It worked out all through the 90s. You remember that?
And they went back to the American colleges and they're like, don't do this. But you know what we're showing the Japanese? Fucking amazing shit. And yeah. So I may or may not work for a certain engine manufacturer that is very worried about these concepts. And it's kind of weird because, one, the supply chain issues are exactly what you're saying. It just takes one part. If you can't get carburetors for your Chevy 350, then it's hard to put out Chevy 350s. That's kind of how that works. But they also, the big thing is storage. So if you imagine engines and how big they are to store once they're completed, it becomes insane. And you're like, oh, we have an extra 1,000 engines. Let's just stick them in the hallways in the factory and hide them in every corner and tell everybody, hey, you're not allowed to have toolboxes in the plant because now mind you, the company pays for the toolboxes and puts them in the plant. And then they're like, you can't have those. We don't have that kind of space. so I should take all my toolboxes home. Yeah, that would be best. Just get them out of here. We can't have this crap taking up space. And that's, believe it or not, you get, once a product's finished, you get taxed on it. And so that's the big thing, is you don't want to have finished products sitting in your inventory, because that becomes your liability kind of thing.
Right.
The other thing that a smart company does, and there's a lot of companies out there that are doing this, is they actually buy their suppliers. So if you make the computer chip that, whatever, believe it or not, like, I don't want to give away too much information, but I heard about a company that when the pandemic hit and they were like, hey, we're going to need masks for all our employees and we're going to need all this stuff. This company actually went out and bought a 50% share of 3M, who was making masks, and said, fuck you, I'm not going to run out of masks because I own the mask maker, And that's the kind of business model that a lot of these companies are trying to do, is protect because of just-in-time manufacturing. Just-in-time, you run the risk of, if there's a big demand, hey, we need, toilet paper and, then, all of a sudden that shit's not available. Nobody's allowed to shit at work. Well, you got a problem. You have to bring your squares from home. That's not going to be good. We're setting up a whole bidet system or who knows what. They don't have that at my company. I'm just saying hypothetically, in a whatever world. One of the other things, though, in my mind, companies can get kind of carried away with this. So the beauty of just in time is, if you order a Chevy 350 that you want to be 416 horsepower, they can make that with the new CNC machines and like that, where they're like, yeah, we're going to print out that engine. And then, and then the next day somebody's like, wait, I want 350s that are only 350 horsepower, but get 30 miles to the gallon. And then you're like, all right, we can do that. And they print those out and make those work. The problem is, when you do it that way, you can get 50 engines a day. Whereas if you have the mass production where everything's the same, you can do 300 or 400 a day. So you have to kind of know what your staples are, your bread and butter. And, kind of, actually, I think the numbers actually work out to be 50 a day versus 700 a day. And it's gee, 700 of our, the Model T in black, if we can make 700 Model Ts in black, or we can make a Mustang, a Camaro, or I guess whatever, a Mustang, a Ford Focus, and a Mustang minivan, whatever the fuck that is, and all in the same day, then, but we can only make 20 of those.
You just made that up.
Okay. We live in an ugly world, Kevin. That's all I can tell you. There's a lot of frightening things out there.
Things are worse than I thought.
Things are just terrifying. But the idea, then you can do everything. So the point is, you could have a million of the same thing and be fast and efficient, or you can be specific. Now, our bigger concern, obviously we worry about our whole supply chain. All these things matter to us. And there's a lot of things outside what you expect. Hey, fertilizer is a big thing that's important to me in my life. You're like, well, I'm not buying fertilizer, but you're eating, wheat products, right? And you're eating corn products, and you have ethanol in your gas tank, and you don't want ethanol in your gas tank, but the government demands you have ethanol in your gas tank. That shit comes from corn. That shit needs fertilizer. These are things that come into play and make a big difference in this. So now how this all applies to the grocery store that's a whole other, ball of wax. Now, the grocery store, they're getting restocked like instantly. And that's the beauty. So
Right.
it basically goes from the factory or the farm, right? Whether it's fresh produce or whether it's people making Oreos at Nabisco. Then it goes on a truck. It goes to a distribution center. The distribution center actually cracks open all the pallets. So you get a pallet of Oreos. And then they open up the pallet of Oreos and they send it so that it's, 50 bags of Oreos go to this grocery store, 50 to that one. And they actually break it into pallets to send to the smaller stores. And then that gets, once it's sorted on pallets, it gets shipped to the individual stores, back on trucks and redistributed. So that way, that's how you can be in, New York City and have fresh orange juice, in the wintertime, right? Because
Right.
it basically, it comes from the different parts of the world, or, grapes. Grapes were the big example I saw in one of the things. And, there's like 3 different regions of where you can grow grapes, but you get from a different time from each season. And that way you can always have something fresh. Well, that's amazing, right? A lot of this stuff has a very short shelf life, yet you're able to sell your product, for one, to a huge market, all over the country when you're the grape producer, but you're also able to, have anything on your breakfast table. And that's what's amazing. The problem is, along with the good, you get the bad. So you get the good fresh, but you got to realize you're one problem away, from your shit getting to the grocery store. And usually grocery stores, if they're not restocked every single day, they're restocked by at a maximum every 3rd day would be the longest that you would go. And that's huge. If your store only has 3 days worth of food, if gas prices go up, there's a big earthquake. We have a big snowstorm where trucks can't get in for a week. It happens sometimes. Usually it's a day or 2. But, these things happen. We have a power outage for 3 or 4 days. That grocery store, plus, we know the human nature and the way people hoard things. The way when, I hear a big storm's coming. Let me go buy all the bread, all the, the whatever they buy. I guess they buy bread, peanut butter, eggs, and milk, I think, is what people go buy when there's a hurricane coming. Because I know I can live forever on bread and peanut butter. And, you probably could. But, hey, whatever. Each their own. The thing is, that's cool. And it's great that we can get it. But it makes it such a fragile system. The stores have all kinds of stuff. And it really is like an amazing process. And they actually will pay extra just to have different varieties or whatever to be able to beat out Walmart or Target. You might be able to get your favorite salsa or whatever. I mean, you can get some really exotic specific stuff at your grocery store. But because of the way the system's set up, it's such a delicate balance. Now, the way the inventory works, like some people have software that just says, all right, on average, we sell this much. Usually it'll accommodate for the seasons. The 4th of July, you're going to have extra hot dogs and s'more stuff, marshmallows and chocolate bars and graham crackers. It'll know, hey, winter's coming up. We need to have eggnog. We need to have, whatever bullshit. Easter's coming up. We need to have a ham, have extra hams. The software will usually accommodate for that, but it's rare that people pay the extra to have ones that kind of follow the weather and the hurricanes and the different things.
Right.
And so that's why stores get wiped out at these special events. Now, some people are really prepared. Like, you'll get a store manager who says, you know what? This is hurricane season. I need to, get some extra whatever. You know what? This year, my gut says we're going to get a snowstorm early. Let's get 30 snow shovels and 100 bags of salt just in case. that's a good business model if somebody's paying attention to it, but it's not always the case. But do you know, like, do they have the foresight to say, hey, we're about to have a beef shortage. Hey, there's big wheat issues coming out of Ukraine that they're not putting out products. Hey, there's a lot less corn growing because fertilizer is really expensive. These are the things that have to be taken into account. But I don't know. What are you thinking?
So, like you were saying, one small issue in that supply chain can screw everything up with this. So let's talk about a couple of the issues. One of the major issues going on right now is that there's a shortage of truck drivers. And it's not really that there's a shortage of truck drivers, but there is a shortage of companies willing to pay truck drivers. In other words, cost of fuel is going up, and cost of vehicles, trucks, is going up, and they're trying to save money by paying the same amount for the drivers. A few companies are paying a little bit more, and so truck drivers are leaving certain businesses, out of luck with drivers. Another one of the major issues is equipment availability. Like I said, with some of the trucks, it's not so easy to get the parts you need for repairs and things like that. So more trucks are off the road for longer periods of time. Another one of the issues right now is ripple effects from bottlenecks. Do you remember when that ship got stuck in the Suez Canal last year? Right. That caused huge issues for everybody worldwide. And it was, it was basically ripple effects from that. Anytime replacement parts aren't available, that means that equipment is going to be down for longer periods of time. That means manufacturing is going to slow down, and it just causes problem after problem that cascade further down the line. Yeah. The fourth major problem is labor shortages. Now they talk about I see this bullshit all the time, like people don't want to work anymore, and nobody wants to work for a reasonable amount of money anymore, and that this sort of bullshit. But the truth of the matter is, right now in the United States, we have 3% unemployment. That means everybody that wants to work is working. That 3%, 99% of them are shitty, lazy people that just keep getting fired from their jobs.
Kevin, that's
what I mean? There's that 1% of people that are unemployed right now, that are hardworking guys that are going to find another job soon. You're not going to be lucky enough to hire that guy for $15 an hour. $15 an hour isn't enough to pay for your fucking gas to get back and forth to work, let alone car payments and insurance and housing and food. People aren't going to work for $15 anymore because it's bullshit pay. It doesn't, that used to be a good salary. It's not a good salary anymore. $15 an hour is bullshit. And people want to act like it's the same economy they had 5 years ago, but it's not.
Right. Now, I have to point out Kevin's in New York, where $15 is like nothing, and it costs $15 to go to McDonald's. I'm just putting that out there. But
yeah, I wouldn't get out of bed for $15 an hour.
Dude, some people here are making $8 an hour. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, well.
That hurts.
But fucking quit that job.
I don't know. I'm just saying, it is kind of relative to where you live, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but I will say this, that the problem isn't that people aren't willing to work anymore. The problem is that there's less people working. One, start off with that middle-aged woman that used to be the manager at the office. She got 3 kids, and she realizes her daycare is more expensive than what she makes in a year, so it's more cost-effective for her to stay at home. That guy that's been running that mechanic shop for 30 years, and he's 65, and he's been thinking about retiring. Guess what?
He's doing it.
COVID hit. He retired. A lot of people left the workforce early because of that. Why are they going to stick around, making half the money they would have made that year when they can just retire on the money they've been saving up for 30 years? Right. A lot of people just decided to cut their losses and go.
And I will say that Kevin is 100% right on the idea that, no, bottom line, companies are refusing to pay in relation to inflation, right? So inflation is going up, everybody's bills are going up, the companies are charging for the products, but they're not paying the employees to reflect it. And that is 100% true everywhere. And that's exactly the point that Kevin's making is, it's like, oh, I can't find any employees. Well, because you're not paying anything relative to what shit costs in reality. If inflation, which we know is a conservative estimate, went up 8% this year or whatever the fuck they're saying it is, because we know that's bullshit. And we know a lot of things cost more than 8% more than what they did last year.
Right.
But, chicken feed, fertilizer, everything, and then therefore it passes on. Believe it or not, me and Kevin laugh because I think a dozen eggs where Kevin lives used to cost, when I left New York, were like $2.50 a dozen or something. And I got
even a little bit less than that.
Yeah. And when I got here, eggs were like 37 cents a dozen. And now I'm outraged that eggs are like $1.50. And Kevin's like, what do you mean $1.50 for a dozen eggs?
Yeah, shit. I'm looking at $4 or $5 thing for a dozen eggs. Ridiculous. I'm glad that I'm getting my own, I like my eggs. So what are some of the main affected areas are there's four mainly affected areas that kind of affect everything else. One is metals and mining. So one of the biggest ones is aluminum. And one of the reasons is China's efforts to reduce carbon emissions, which are raising costs of aluminum and aluminum production. Another one is rising gas costs have reduced production in Europe. So that means Asia and Europe are reducing their use of or their production of aluminum. And the third one is gas costs are causing bottling companies to go with cans. You'll see a lot of canned beer a lot more often than bottled beer because bottles are heavier than cans and cost more to ship. So that's another one of the main issues. So we've got some real issues with aluminum, which is a major part of canned products like canned beans and canned corn, things like that. So those prices are going up because of that. Another one of the major issues is chemical costs have gone up. Do you remember going to the grocery store or even the dollar store and you could get a gallon of bleach for, like $1.50? And now you go over there and it's $7, $8 for a gallon of bleach.
Right.
That's a huge cost. That's a huge increase in price for that. And it's everywhere. All sorts of chemicals for your household cleaners, rubbing alcohol. When the pandemic hit, those prices skyrocketed. Everybody wanted to use the hand sanitizers and soap and all that bullshit. So they had to move all those products into those kinds of uses instead of using them for everything else that they were normally used for in manufacturing. And they haven't switched everything back yet. Right. Automotive. So that's related to the semiconductor issues. So there's a shortage of semiconductors, which mostly come out of Taiwan and South Korea. And, Taiwan's basically under fucking lockdown with the way China's acting right now. Right. And South Korea's, they're still having issues with COVID over there.
Now, I did see a headline yesterday, hang on, that made me laugh. They had Apple is demanding that Taiwan put all the products that, now, to work with me, all the products that are going to China, if they're made in Taiwan and then Apple being shipped to China, they have to say made in China. If they're made in Taiwan.
Right. Not in Taiwan, because that's a dirty word in China.
It can't
even say that word.
It can say made in Taiwan, part of China. And you're like, oh, well, that's okay.
That's classy.
So, there's
that's
that.
That's not fucking rude as shit to the Taiwanese people, right?
And Apple's like, No, at first, the headline I read was, Apple's telling Taiwan anything made in Taiwan needs to say made in China. That any Apple product they buy. But it's not really. Right. It's anything that's going to China. Because they got to keep the illusion going. Like, hey, we already own that shit. But right. I thought that was funny. And like, how fucked
No,
up
that
are
is
we
that is
that we
interesting.
accept that shit?
Yeah, that's okay with us, right? Who's okay with that? You know what I mean? I guess nobody really gives a fuck. I guess
Well,
you and
we
I are
get
the
more
only people
money.
that really think that's fucked up. But
Well,
what are you going to do?
yeah.
The New York Times just ran a headline that said a normal supply chain is unlikely in 2022. Now, things are getting better slowly,
Right.
but we're not back in business the way we were in 2015.
No.
So hypothetically, by the end of 2022, things should be looking a little bit better. Things should be starting easing a little bit, but there's still going to be major shortages that, we kind of do this podcast. One of the things we think about is what are the best items to stock up on,
Right.
try and kind of be preemptive with some of this stuff and save some guys some money, going out and buying a bunch of shit that's going to be cheaper next year. That's just a waste of money. But if you're looking at what's going to be more expensive next year, those are the things you want to focus on. And, some of the things right now that you might want to steer clear of stocking up on, eggs, which, you can freeze eggs. But the truth is, if you're making your own eggs, if you got your own chickens, you're in the best position for that. Don't stock up on baby formula. Because that's, those prices are through the roof right now. Still, that was an issue, 6 months, a year ago, and it's still an issue now. And it doesn't seem like it's going to get better in the next 6 months.
So really, we should just stop having babies.
Yeah, stop. Yeah. Just keep your dick in your pants. Behave yourself. Use a condom. Pull out. Whatever you got to do. I don't know. I'm not trying to dictate your business, but just be conscientious where you put that.
What if you're breeding little capitalists? Then we want to keep that going, or little libertarians.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's what Elon Musk is doing. He's building his own basketball team, I guess. I don't know. Another one that's going up is paper goods. Paper plates, paper towels, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, the idea is that things are going to get more expensive, but they're not going to get more expensive at an equal rate. Some things are going to go up a lot faster and a lot higher than other things. One of the products that we're talking about right now, it's in the news a lot, is meat products. Meat. If you go to the grocery store right now, meat prices are not as high as
Right.
they were.
Right.
They've gone down quite a bit. But is that here to stay?
Right.
What do you think, Chuck? Are we in for
here's,
good long term?
Here's my take on beef. All right. Now I posted a article about a coming beef shortage, and I actually put a video out there about it. And everyone was like, "No, I work in the auction houses and I work in the slaughterhouses, and I'm seeing the exact opposite. We're getting so much beef in right now, we can't even handle it." Well, there's a reason you're getting so much beef in right now, and that's the problem. This is why it's on the shelf right now, but you should be raising an eyebrow and kind of worried about, hey, what's my meat supply going to look like in the future? I'm thinking about, always rabbits and whatever. But I've actually ordered cages and found a supplier, and I'm moving forward with it because I am worried about the beef prices. Now, the reason I say this is because out west, we're having all kinds of drought issues in the Texas area. And the drought issues are making it where they have to produce all this water for the cows, and being able to get it out and get it to the animals is getting expensive. Fuel for doing things is expensive. Fertilizer, all kinds of feed and grain and corn, the prices are going through the roof. And where that's going to affect you long term is they're not going to have feed for the cattle. So the reason that the auction houses and the slaughterhouses are full of cows is because everybody's like, fuck it, I got to get rid of these things because I'm not going to be able to afford to keep feeding them. So people are really thinning out their supply, and that's where it becomes an issue. That's where you need to, start you need to look at the cause and effect of things and see a little bit further down the road. And it's not just with with cattle and things like that. With everything, look at the long-term consequences. Everything kind of goes in stages and it's cyclical, and that's what you need to be aware of. You need to see that, one thing has an effect on the next thing. And you just need to be aware of how that shit plays out.
Right. Right. So, I mean, it is one of those things that you might want to, you might want to stock up, fill that freezer up. I don't know what to tell you, as far as that goes long term, unless you're going to go out and spend $500 on beef, unless you're going to get half a cow or a quarter of a cow right now and stock your freezer, you might just be in bad luck. But I mean, you really should think about spending a little bit of money now to save some more money in the future. The other major shortage right now apparently is tampons. I have not noticed that there's been a increase in cost and a shortage of, I don't use a whole lot, but I guess there's a lot of COVID related staffing shortages is what they are saying is the cause of this. I think was it Marjorie Taylor Greene that was blaming trannies?
Oh.
I don't know a whole lot about transsexuals, but as far as I know, they don't have periods, and I don't think you have to worry about the massive armies of transsexuals going to the store and buying up all the tampons. I'm not sure on this. Send your hate mail to preppingbadass@gmail.com. Let me know what the real facts of the matter are. But there is going to be cost increases there, and it might be one of the things that either you want to do a little bit of price shopping, comparison shopping before you go out and spend all your money on tampons. Try and reduce your flow. So maybe this is a great way to
your flow.
Segment back into saying don't use the condoms because maybe you should be having the babies and save on 9 of those periods.
And instead, you're paying for baby diapers and every other damn thing.
Right, and formula that you can't get.
What is it they call? They have the little menstrual cup thing, the little period. They have those for the preppers.
I don't know how that works, and I don't want to know how it works. It seems gross, but I know people that use that. Apparently, it's a thing.
Well, Kevin, you got to think of the planet.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to tell you a disgusting story.
All right. What do you got?
I knew this girl that did use that menstrual cup, and she worked in an office full of women, and they were very concerned about the environment. So they would empty their menstrual cups into the potted plants in the office.
Yes.
As like fertilizer. So it was like a double use, save on a little bit of water, save on a little bit of fertilizer, give it to the plants. I can't give you any information on whether or not that worked better or if it killed the plants. I don't know what was going on there.
Sounds horrible and terrifying.
Was something that I was very interested in unlearning. But now you guys know that, and you can store that information in your brain.
That was it. That was the whole story.
So there's going to be some issues. There's going to be some issues coming up, and a lot of the reason of the shortages, a lot of the reason of the cost increases, a lot of the reason for the inflation is for the massive use in just-in-time manufacturing. Right. It was the use of this that caused a lot of these issues. There wasn't any backup supplies of stuff, and I can guarantee that companies are going to go right back to using this as soon as they can, because it does save money. So hopefully we can get through this issue, and then the next time we have this same supply issue, it's going to be the same nightmare.
Right. All right. So you're saying that history actually could repeat itself.
Yeah, I mean, it always does, right? It always does. We're always going to have some sort of issue with this. And, we're lucky that we live in the United States. In the fact that the matter is that I can go and maybe I can't get the brand of something I want, but right. I can get something that's comparable. I can get the in-store brand. I can get the, whatever off-brand item. And, that's great. A lot of stuff, like juice, apple juice and orange juice and butter and shit like that. I can get it. I can get it, maybe not the actual brand I like, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to starve to death. But that's not the case in a lot of places in the world. And here's another thing that's been pissing me off lately. I've been seeing a lot of motherfuckers running these ads about, like puppies and, this puppy's going to be put down and these kittens and dogs and you gotta go to the shelter and save these animals and all this bullshit. And listen, I feel bad for these puppies too. They're cute. They're cute. You know what's not cute? 30-year-old guy in Africa that's starving to death because he's trying to give all the food he can to his kids. People are starving to death in the world. People are dying. And you're worried about donating to the Humane Society, to save a couple of puppies. Fuck those dogs. There's actual people starving to death.
They're furry.
I know, they're so cute, right? They look like little babies. Yeah, they're so cute.
How could you
they're
say
little
no
fuzzy,
to that
furry
face?
babies. Yeah.
My wife.
Fuck those dogs.
Now, mind you, we've already got 2 dogs, and my wife yesterday is like, the shelter's overflowing. You know that we need to go and take another one. And I'm like, no, we don't. That's the whole thing.
I'll help, and I would love to help those shelters out. I've got a claw hammer upstairs, and I will go over there and I will smash all those puppies' heads in if they want. If they've got too many dogs, I will help you out. There are actual people starving to death, and people are concerned about these poor puppies being put down.
I think 8 people just hit unsubscribe right now. They just deleted the podcast and will never hear another word from you.
That's fine. That's fine. Be pissed off. Send your hate mail to me. I love it. I feed off of that hate mail. Preppingbadass@gmail.com. Send me your hate mail. I love that shit. It's like the dark side of the force. It just feeds me. But, the fact of the matter is, just because you don't see people that are starving to death doesn't mean people aren't starving to death. It's happening a lot right now, and it's happening in a lot of places all over the world.
That's one of the big lessons that I try and teach my kids over and over again. They'll be like, oh, I had to, go out in the middle of the thunderstorm and go get the dog and whatever. And I'm like, people first. You have to understand that people come before the animals. And we love our dog and we take care of our dog, but you don't run in front of a car to get the dog and get you hit to push him out of the way. That's not how the world should work. People come first. And, oh, dude, it's, And I understand, you're like, oh, well, that person might grow up to be a Muslim, so should we even help them anyway? That's not really good logic on that one, all right?
Yeah, that's not
exactly the sound argument. Maybe you could kind of, hey, let's go spread love. Now, if you are like the missionary who's like, I want to go to the cannibals and get them straight and they just eat you. I mean, I guess you're helping people in a way if you're bringing them a meal, But
yeah, that's right. That's right. Feeding the people of the
There
world.
is a time. There is a time.
If you're going to do that sort of thing, at least be fat,
Yeah, be fat. All right. So there's a time when people don't want to be helped, and that's okay too. You can just let them be. But it would be nice if we could all be a little kinder. A little, you know what? Maybe we need the Prepping Badass t-shirt that says people first. I choose people.
Fuck your dog.
I
mean, don't get me wrong.
They might read
Chuck
that wrong.
Chuck just said that kid might grow up to be a Muslim, but that dog you saved might grow up to piss on your couch, like happened to me last week. You know what I mean? Like,
that could go
not all dogs
way,
are good dogs.
Right.
Oh,
it's an ugly world. Kevin, why are you so filled with hate?
I'm just enraged. All week long, I spend day in, day out, just being angry at everybody and everything. But I mean, what are you gonna do? That's just how life is.
And you chose to support us by listening to this podcast, so you should apologize to yourself. Now, maybe you're thinking, hey, I think I should go get one of those Stay Strapped or Get Clapped t-shirts over at preppingbadass.com. I'm just saying.
That'd be a good idea.
That's something you might be interested in. You just click on gear and see what we got. But otherwise, I would say stay safe. And you have questions, concerns, comments, email Kevin. You got some hate mail. preppingbadass@gmail.com. Otherwise, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
The Survival and Basic Badass podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.